I'm Gwendolyn Hustvedt. Welcome to Textile Update. This is one in a series of videos where I introduce some of the commonly covered topics in a textiles course, both for my students and for people who've just discovered these videos on the web and are interested to learn a tiny bit more about the topic. Today's topic is basic weaves. Basic weaves are made using the very simplest of looms that typically have between 2 and 6 or 8 harnesses. The harnesses hold the heddles hold the warp yarns, and depending on how many harnesses you have, you can create one of the several types of weaves that are considered basic. The difference between a basic weave and a fancy weave is that the pattern repeats every 6 yarns or so. With a plain weave, it repeats every 2 yarns, and we are not operating the warp yarns individually. Those come later in our talk about fancy weaves. We're going to learn about how to identify the basic weaves just by looking at the interlacing pattern. So we begin with the balanced plain weaves, which have a one-to-one interlacing pattern. So the warp yarn goes over a filling yarn and under filling yarn, over one, under one, over one, under one, all the way through the pattern. Sounds kind of dull, right? But we can mix it up by using different size yarns, packing them more closely together or spacing them out to change the weight or the opacity, using spun yarns or filament yarns. So there's actually tons of yarns to talk about in the balanced plain weaves. Let's get unbalanced, where we use either filling yarns that are a lot bigger than the warp yarns or just really pack in extra warp yarns to have a different balance between the number of warp and filling yarns. And taffeta is a wonderful example of an unbalanced plain weave. We will also talk about twill weaves. Twill weaves are where we begin to have a variation in the pattern. The first warp yarn might go under 1 and over 2, under 1, over 2. The second warp yarn may actually go over the one that the first yarn went under, and then under 2 and over 1 and under 2, right? Having this staggering of the pattern by using the fact that we have several different harnesses that can lift and lower yarns. And then, of course, we want to talk about the satin weave. The satin weave involves having very long floats. The warp yarn may go over 5 filling yarns before it's interlaced, or the filling yarn may go over 5 warp yarns before it's interlaced, depending on whether it's a warp-faced or a fill-faced satin weave. So you can see just with the basic plain weave, the twill weave, and the satin weave, we get all kinds of different textures and designs and a ton of fabrics to learn about in this category of the basic weaves. Super.